Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever or whenever you're watching us. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I am your host, Michael Clifford. Joining me today is our single entry assassin, now that he's finished putting all his rookie futures on Dyson Mayo, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, bud?
Oh, shipped everything because of Dyson. I didn't even play Dyson Mayo. I just was looking for a random player on the Coyotes to break up the Koskinen shutout.
Yeah, for anybody that missed in our Discord last night, Josh was looking for a random Coyote, like he said, to break the shutout for Edmonton, and he obviously needed a random to do it so that somebody with Arizona wouldn't pass him in the leaderboard. He said could use a Dyson Mayo goal or something like that, and sure enough, this guy Dyson Mayo goes out and scores for Arizona, breaks the shutout, pushes Josh into the cash. Sometimes, man, things like that just work out for you, and you just you just thank your blessings and you move along, right?
You throw enough spaghetti at the wall, eventually some of it's going to stick.
Yeah, exactly. For every 5 Alex Wenbergs, there is a Dyson Mayo every once in a while. So yeah, I didn't particularly have a great night last night. I got back about 60% of my entries. That third period from Edmonton just killed me. I think that killed a lot of people too. Obviously not if you had Edmonton, you were banking on them, but that third period, lots of points from the top 6, and that really pushed me down the leaderboard. So not a great night for me. We should talk about last night a little bit. Carolina, there was a lot of chatter about them yesterday. One, because of their price, and two, because of the matchup, because they're going into Montreal. Kotkaniemi returns. Montreal's been playing bad all season. Carolina just mopped the floor with them. I didn't watch a lot of that game, but it didn't look like Montreal was really in control of any of the parts I saw. And they moved Teravainen back up with Aho. Aho had been playing with, Necas and Kotkaniemi, hadn't looked great. Now that Teravainen's back there, that line looks a little bit different now.
Oh yeah, Montreal has been horrific this season, both on both ends of the ice. Who was saying it? I saw something let's be honest. They were one of the worst teams to ever make the Stanley Cup Finals, just because the Canadian division last year was pretty bad. The Leafs are frauds. They got through the Leafs. I see. I'm gonna get messages on Twitter for that, but listen, they lost Weber. His career is probably over. The GM said don't expect him back anytime soon. I mean, yeah, Shea Weber's not the player he used to be. That's still a big loss. They lost a couple guys offensively. Carolina just ran him over. Carolina's a good deep team. They made some questionable offseason moves, but that team is loaded in the top 6.
Yeah, and I really like the move of putting, like I said, Teravainen back. Him and Aho just have so much chemistry together. We'll see how they can mix in with Kotkaniemi. Obviously, Edmonton went out and did the thing last night. They had a really good game. Winnipeg, it was kind of a mess last night because we were expecting Scheifele to possibly play, Scheifele and Wheeler both not in. But we got that news early enough where we could make some line changes. Winnipeg won 5-1. Pierre-Luc Dubois is the guy I really want to talk about. He had a real tough year last year, going from Columbus to Winnipeg. But we got to remember, man, that trade happened during the season, right? It was the end of January or something like that. Imagine the upheaval it would take to leave Ohio in America and move to Canada during the middle of a pandemic when the border restrictions were still super tight. And up here in Canada, we had, much tighter restrictions for your daily life. So, a new guy, new team, new city, new country, during the middle of the pandemic, I think, maybe we were a little too quick to write off Pierre-Luc Dubois. What do you see out of him and Winnipeg so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, he got traded. He had to isolate for 2 weeks. So you can't leave the house, your hotel room, whatever it is. You can't really train that way. So, maybe he was behind the 8 ball there. I mean, I was a big fan of him on Columbus. Torts kind of kept setting him down the lineups, but Torts, expects certain things defensively out of his players that maybe he wasn't giving. But listen, he's a good offensive player. Hopefully, he's more comfortable in Winnipeg, even though you can't get to that city via airplane, which still blows my mind that there is an NHL team in a city that you cannot get to via airplane. So, but yeah, I mean, I expect big things from him. I'm not expecting 100 points, but I think he's still young. He's going to grow. So
I think one thing that might help Winnipeg here is just a consistent lineup, right? Like Scheifele in and out, Wheeler in and out, like all those, Kopp and Stastny moving up and down the lineup. I think just having a little bit more consistency there would be a big help. Anything else you want to talk about last night? Like, was there anything that stood out to you in particular, or do you just want to move along?
until McDavid's like $11,000, he's inevitable. Like it's just going to happen. Like they were showing that stat around Twitter. He has 47 points in his last 18 games. Like it's underpriced.
Like he has to be a 10K player.
Yeah, he has to be the first one. There's no choice.
Like and the thing that's surprising, like obviously I don't expect him to be 10K today, back to back on the road going into Vegas. But I do wonder if we don't get there eventually, because like you said, he's averaging like 2.5 points over the last quarter of a season. Nearly 30, like he's averaging almost 30 fantasy points per game so far this season alone. Yeah. You can't just leave him at like 9,200 or something like that.
It was a 10-game slate. He was 31% owned. You have to get him to a point where like people have to make a decision. Like you can't fit in McDavid and McKinnon together. You're going to have to make a choice. Like either play, McDavid with Wayne Simmons, or like actually get competent players in your lineup. Yeah. Sorry, Wayne, it's 2021.
Yeah. I get what you're saying here, but yeah, I'm the same way. Like he has to come up. He has to be 10K. Leon Draisaitl has to be north of 9. Like that 2-man duo has got to cost you 40% of your money. It's just getting out of control because these guys are putting up 50 points a night.
30% on 11 gamer. Like you have to get him to a price where like you have to make a choice. Like he's going to be like 9-10% on a 10-11 game slate. Because you imagine if this was like a 6-game slate, he'd be 70% owned and he would just ruin a slate. So
exactly. I mean, even on this 4-gamer, I know he's on the road, but I still think he's going to be probably the highest owned player on the slate. Well, maybe Matthews, I guess.
Oh yeah, Matthews is underpriced tonight, but like these like players, you have to actually make it where you have to make a decision. Like last night, it's like boop, McDavid, and you can still fill out your lineup.
Right. And especially where it seems like they're underpricing. Like we found some defensemen getting down to like 2,800. There's been a lot of punt defensemen that have been able to come through. So I'm with you, man. Like McDavid has to be north of 10K, Draisaitl north of 9. Maybe we'll get there eventually. It shouldn't take too long if they keep going like this. All right, last team I want to talk about real quick is Chicago. Oh my God, man. They might not look worse than Montreal, but it's pretty close. Like Vancouver went into Chicago last night, and basically after the first period, I think just kind of ran the show. And I don't think very much of Vancouver. I think Vancouver's a bubble playoff team at best. I think last night's game spoke a lot more about the quality of Chicago's team than the quality of Vancouver's team, because Chicago's just looked terrible.
Yeah, and I don't want to assume things, but like Marc-Andre Fleury needs to make it look like he's just not there for a paycheck. You know what I mean? Like he looks like he's just going through the motions. Yeah, it's a new city for him, but like he could have retired. You know what I mean? If he didn't want to play. I feel like he didn't want to play and someone convinced him to do it and he's just not happy. So like listen, that's just my view on it. It could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's, but he looks like he's going through the motions, and holy cow, they are atrocious defensively. Seth Jones, that contract is going to age like, a whiskey distilled in a 200-year-old boot. Like it's just going to be atrocious.
And you'd say all that about Seth Jones and Marc-Andre Fleury, and they're the lowest scoring team at 5-on-5. Yeah. 0.76 goals per 60 minutes. And they have the lowest expected goals. So it's not like they're getting they are getting unlucky to a degree, but they're not just getting supremely unlucky. They're not generating anything. I don't know what's I didn't think Chicago would be very good this year, but I didn't think they'd be like lottery team bad. They look lottery team bad. All right. That's probably going to do it for talking about yesterday's slate. As always, like if you guys have any questions about any slate or anything that happens on a night, hit us up in the Discord, hit us up here in YouTube chat. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And while you guys are here, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, it's the perfect time to do so. We have you covered for every DFS sport, daily streams for NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, PGA, college football. We got it all here for you. I mean, we have a bunch of shows coming up later. We'll talk about them, but we've got NFL covered. We've got NBA covered. We've got everything. So subscribing to the channel is the number way you can help out, and it doesn't cost you a thing. So just go on down and click that subscribe button. One last thing I want to ask you before we jump into the first game, and it was a good question that I think somebody brought up in Discord yesterday. And I'm going to ask you because, you know, I'll probably play one lineup tonight, but I usually play about 20. How does your strategy change between single entry and 3-max? Like when you 3-max, like on a slate like tonight, would you just take like Toronto 1 and then put like 3 different secondary stacks? Or do you take like Toronto 1 and Dallas 2 and then maybe mix and match a couple defensemen? Like how would you approach that?
It's very slate dependent because, you know, single entry, someone asked me about single entry. I said, you know, if play your guys, like try not to worry about ownership, especially if you're not in single entry, like building cookie cutter lineups as it is, like it's not the best strategy. If you want to like one off a guy, it's fine. So if you're not making a cookie cutter lineup, you know, 4-3-1, don't worry about ownership, like just play your guys. But in 3-max is very slate dependent. Like tonight, there's Matthews, there's McDavid, there's Bergeron, like there's Boston 1, there's Toronto 1, there's Toronto 2, there's Edmonton, there's Vegas. So like for me on this slate, I think I would take a stand, right? I don't want to, because most of these top lines are coming in at like 20-25%. In 3-max, I think I would go all in on my favorite play and fade the other guys, because if they bust, you're just going to be ahead of the field. So I think I would find the line that I really want to play, plug them into at least 2, maybe even all 3, and then, you know, fill them in with different values around them.
Yeah, that's something I've typically done with 3-max as well, is like, just for example, tonight, like I'll take Toronto 1 and then I'll mix in like Los Angeles 2, Dallas 3, and maybe like Buffalo 2. Like I would have those 3 lines in 3 different lines with Toronto. And that's probably the way I approach it. You know, if anybody else has found success with a different approach to 3-max, obviously just let us know. But I've found like you said yesterday on the show with Jake, I caught part of it. You want to give yourself as many kicks as you can when you have the right lineup, right? Like last night, if you had some mix of Carolina and Edmonton, you want 5 or 6 different Edmonton and Carolina lineups with different defensemen, different goalies, whatever, so that when Edmonton and Carolina both go off, you give yourself as many kicks as that can. So it's the same thing. I think I apply that with 3-max. Like I'll probably take like tonight, for example, again, like Edmonton 1 plus Morgan Riley or plus Jake Muzzin or something like that. And then I'll mix in 3 or 4 guys, different guys in different lineups, so that if that Toronto 1 line plus Riley or whatever does explode, I have as many kicks as they can at getting first place with all 3 of my lineups. So that's kind of the way I approach things as well. All right, enough for the strategy talk. We do have to get into these games, and let's talk about those Toronto Maple Leafs. The first game of the night is the San Jose Sharks with a 2.5 implied goal total going into Toronto. The Leafs have a 3.6 implied goal total. It is the biggest total on the slate, and our ownership reflects it. I don't know if we've had a run real recently. When I was looking at top stacks earlier today, Toronto's ownership was absolutely through the roof at about, you know, 1 out of every 3 lineups is expected to have Toronto 1 in it. So you just talked about all that ownership and how we're going to have to navigate it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of ownership on Toronto here tonight. So what do you like from Toronto? How do you navigate that ownership? And then what do you like from the San Jose side?
Yeah, I mean, San Jose back-to-back on the road on a short slate going into Toronto. Not ideal. Yeah, the Couture-Meyer-Dahlen line has looked actually pretty good so far this season, but they're going to get the Matthews matchup. Matthews with Marner, just look at their numbers together. It's ridiculous. They can have a vessel like Nick Ritchie up there, and the numbers don't really fall off too much. You know, for the Couture line going into that matchup, it's tough for me to play them. But if you are MMEing, 20 to 150, fully correlated on the power play, Michael Hutchinson and that, the Leafs aren't world beaters defensively. I think you can have some, but they're certainly not going to be a priority for me at that price. I mean, they're coming in around 5%. So it won't, if you're making 20, putting them into a 20 gets you double the field. So it's something that you can think about, but I really don't like going into the Matthews matchup. Matthews is underpriced. He's 8,500. McDavid last night was 9,500, and he was still 30% on a 10 gamer. Like Matthews at 8,500 on a 4 gamers coming in right now at 38% in our latest model. I would be shocked if he's below 45%. Like he's probably,
I was going to say about 50%. Yeah.
He's going to push 50%. So I will say the one thing that you have to be careful of in GPPs is one-offing Matthews, especially when he's going to be 50%. Because if he has a big game, Mitchell Marner or John Tavares or Willie Nylander or Morgan Riley, they're going to come with him. So like make sure you have one of their line mates with them on the power play or even strength, because one-offing Matthews and he gets a hat trick, good for you. You and half the field got the Matthews hat trick. So you still have to beat out everyone else. And chances are if he gets a hat trick, Mitchell Marner is going to get the 3-point bonus with the assist. So try to avoid, if you can, one-offing Matthews and GPPs. But listen, we were talking about it earlier. Mitch Marner also underpriced. He should be up, 7, like for him. Okay. When he's with Matthews, he should be up close to 8K. When Matthews is out, 6,900 is probably a nice price. So listen, Matthews, Marner, you want to add in a second center, you want to put in Tavares, you want to put in Nylander. I think you can do any sort of power play stack to get different. You want to leave in Nick Ritchie, that's fine. He's 3,300, but 25% Nick Ritchie is an interesting one for me. So I think I would prefer to go, something like Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Matthews, Marner, Tavares, something like that. If you want to full stack that second line going into the hurdle matchup, I really like that line as well. I'm a big Michael Bunting fan. I wish he did not go to Toronto. I understand he's from Toronto, but he is a very good player. Bunting, Tavares, Nylander is a very good line. They get, they don't get the Couture matchup too often. So that is very good as well. One thing we do talk about, and you don't have to go crazy on this thing here, but in a high total, the highest total in a high ownership game, you go down to the third line on that team. There's almost no ownership on the third line. Yeah, they don't have like great name value. They don't have power play time, but they're going to get the bottom 6 of the Sharks, who are already pretty poor defensively. Kerfoot, Kampf, Kasha. They're super cheap. It allows you to do anything you want, really. You can power play stack Edmonton. You can get Vegas. You can get Boston. I'm not saying full stack it, but you can two-man like a Kerfoot and Kasha. It's super cheap. It's 6,200 for the two of them. They're coming in under 1%. It's a 3.6 total. So like, even if like, say, the Matthews line, goes crazy in the first half of the game and it's 4-0 going to the third, Kerfoot, Kasha are probably going to see some time on ice in the more time on ice than usual in the third period. So they might get, 16, 17 minutes instead of the normal 13, 14. So it's a good way to get different in a high ownership game in a high total.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up that third line, because I think that's probably a good spot to onslaught too, right?
Yeah.
One thing we talk about, I don't think we've talked about it a ton so far this year. It's actually named after Mr. Joshua Harris here. It's called Josh Stacking over on DraftKings. You might hear it called Onslaught Stacking as well. It's basically just 6-man stacking from the same team on DraftKings. Obviously, you can't do it on FanDuel. You can only have 4 players from the same team, but on DraftKings, you can have up to 6. So like, maybe you do want to use Matthews and Marner and you're worried that, they're going to come in at 25, 30%. Maybe you use Matthews, Marner, Riley, and then sneak in Kasha and Kerfoot or something like that, right? And then, if Toronto does win this game 6-1 or something like that, you probably have a good shot at first place, because it's, it's a 4-game slate. There aren't a ton of high scoring teams other than Edmonton on, elsewhere on this slate. So, something like that can work very easily. I'm glad you brought up Michael Bunting, because that's actually something I wrote down in my notes. And it's something that we talked about a little bit last year for people that might have been, subscribers or watchers last year. We talked about line combinations and how players fit together, right? When I look at the line combinations from last year, Tavares and Nylander played a lot with Kerfoot and Mikheyev. Those guys aren't goal scorers, right? Like Kerfoot and Mikheyev, those are the guys that I want on the third line. Maybe they could chip in some goals, but 55% expected goal share, not going to get caved in defensively. Those are the guys, that's probably why Kerfoot's down on the third line this year. But if you look at Tavares and Nylander with Kerfoot, their goal scoring was terrible. If you look at Tavares and Nylander with Mikheyev, the goal scoring is terrible. But if you look at Tavares and Nylander when they play with Galchenyuk, and for all of Galchenyuk's faults, he's a good goal scorer. It's the one thing that he can do. It's what kept him in the NHL until his late 20s. Their goal scoring rate was almost like 4 goals per 60 minutes, which is just absurd. Now, the defensive numbers went down, but we don't care. All we care about is the offense. And that's why I think Michael Bunting is going to make a big difference here. Michael Bunting is probably the best goal scorer that line has seen in 3 years, like with regularity. You know what I mean? So I really like that Toronto 2 line. I know they're coming in around 15, 16%, and that's high. I do wonder if people just leave off bunting. You know what I mean? Because maybe people go like Matthews, Tavares, Nylander or something like that. You know what I mean? And just leave bunting off. So like, I'm not opposed to just 3-man stacking Toronto 2 here, even if they come in at 15 to 16%. I really like that line. Their expected goals numbers this year are just through the roof. I mean, all of Toronto's are. Like, somebody brought it up in our Discord chat earlier today. Toronto's on the cusp here, right? Like, we can all feel it. like their expected goals numbers are through the roof. Matthews just returned. The lineup's finally healthy. Like, we know these guys are going to explode and explode probably sometime very soon. So while I'm not opposed to Toronto 1, like, I'm with you. I'm just on the ownership. Like, I would never just flat stack Toronto 1. It would be like Toronto 1 plus a Nylander, Toronto 1 plus, a couple guys on the third line, Toronto 1 plus Tavares and Nylander. Like, I'm not just stacking Toronto 1. It's just way too chalky for me. So that's where I am on Toronto. I do like that Toronto 3 call. I don't know if I'd stack them outright unless it was in an onslaught, but I do think they've been a very good line this year. On the San Jose side, like, the ownership is pretty much in check and they all have good prices, but I don't really like the matchup here. Like, it's a tough matchup for them. It's back-to-back on the road. So I'm out on San Jose 2 and 3. I would go to Couture, Dahlin, and Meyer for any of my lines. They've looked really good this year. They're coming in around 5% owned, reasonably priced. So, like, if you want to, you can reasonably fit in San Jose 1 with a couple pieces from that Edmonton power play or from the Boston power play or what have you. So, if you want to get a bit different and you want to use one of the secondary lines that's going to come in at like 1/5 the ownership of Vegas 2, San Jose 1 is definitely one of those lines. I like the call on San Jose 3 getting run over. Their numbers haven't been very good so far this year. We don't expect, like, Kevin Labanc has never been a good defensive player. He was always carried by the likes of Hurdle and Couture and Kane and those guys. So the fact, Nick Bonino is not the Bonino of 5 years ago. So the fact, I could definitely see that Toronto third line running them over. And the fact that they're coming in higher owned than Toronto, I would rather play Toronto 3 than San Jose 3 tonight. Is that like, yeah. And like, San Jose 3 is coming in at way higher ownership. Like, it just makes sense to me.
Like, Kasha, when healthy, I know he's a little banged up, but like, his shot volume has just been very good this year. And 2,800 in a game where, like, he's probably going to see decent minutes because this game could get out of hand. I'd rather play Kasha over Bonino or a little bank. I was never a little bank guy. He's a very soft player. He doesn't like taking hits. Curls up, like, goes into the fetal position, sucking his thumb on the bench if someone blows on him. So
you have such an anti-Labanc bias. It's so crazy.
This
goes back years, man.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you need to talk to somebody about this.
No, I will say I respect what he did. Was it last year or 2 years ago, betting on himself, taking a 1 year, $1 million contract, betting on himself like that? I can respect. I just don't like his game. I know he's professional and he's a way better player than I'll ever be on one skate, but like, come on, a little toughness. You're in some pads, boy.
On the blue line, I want to talk about Brent Burns real quick. That guy's priced at 6,300. He has the lowest shot rate of his career, like, ever. This guy's been in the league since, I think, he's been in the league almost 20 years. Like, I don't want to pay 6,300 for a guy on the road with the lowest shot rate of his career. Like, I'm just sorry. So I'm out on Brent Burns. I'm probably out on Erik Karlsson unless I'm stacking with San Jose. I think the only San Jose defenseman I really have any interest in is Mario Ferraro. On the Toronto side, for me, it's just Morgan Riley if I'm correlating. Anything for you?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Mario Ferraro, 2,700. He's been playing over 20 minutes a game. He blocks some shots. Toronto side, there's just nothing that I want to play. Morgan Riley, if I'm doing power play stacking, if, I have to. I'm not a huge Morgan Riley guy either, but Jake Muzzin on a bigger slate, it would probably be a decent play, but 4,400 in no man's land when you have to fit in a bunch of studs, he's probably going to get X'd out of a lot of lineups there. So yeah, Morgan Riley, maybe Rasmus Sundin for power play too, especially if the game gets out of hand. It would be a decent contrarian option, but really it's Ferraro or Riley for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I'm fine. Like, I genuinely like to play Muzzin because, like you said, he's in no man's land. He's a guy that won't get rostered. People will play Riley or they'll dump down to Hall or Sandin or something like that. So like, if you really want to get different, I don't mind Muzzin. But like I said, I'm just correlating my Toronto defense with my stacks. I assume we're not playing 8,200 Hutchinson. Are we playing 7K Aiden Hill?
I mean, in cash, absolutely not. But in GPPs, I think if you're using the Sharks or you're trying to fade Toronto, I know that's not how like leverage works in the NHL DFS, but putting in a 7K Aiden Hill, he's going to see massive volume tonight. So if for some reason he doesn't give up 26 goals before the end of the first period, he should be positive and have a very good shot at the saves bonus.
That's the thing, right? If he can keep it to 3 goals or fewer, he could actually, pick up a good night here tonight. And half the field's going to have a Toronto stack in there.
Yeah. So even if he loses, say he gives up 3 goals on 41 shots, he's going to get that save bonus, have like mid-teens DK points. It's not going to kill you. It's probably actually going to help you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't mind Aiden Hill, especially if you're correlating and in tournaments. All right, let's move it along. So to celebrate the start of the NBA season, we have a special tip-off deal which grants all new Awesemo Plus members 50% off their first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Just use the promo code Curry at checkout. That's CURRY, all capital letters at the checkout. The link in the description below will take you directly to the checkout page. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com for every sport, including NHL. And you'll get player projections, ownership projections, our popular NBA boom and bust tool, lineup builders, and a whole lot more. This offer is valid through Monday, October 25th. So hurry up and lock in this deal to start your Awesemo Plus membership for only $15. I mean, like really, it doesn't get a whole lot better. If you really want to dip your toes and give yourself an actual chance to succeed, if you're not, putting in hours and hours and hours of work on your own every day, this is just an incredible deal. So Curry at the checkout, all capital letters. And if you want to check out what tools we have before you invest any of your money in this company, we have some free tools up on the site like we usually do. We have our NHL top stacks. We have our NFL Week 7 player rankings. We have our NBA ownership rankings for tonight. And we also have our UFC pro plays. So if you want to check out some of the stuff we have on the site before you use that Curry promo, go ahead, check out our NHL top stacks or NFL, NBA, or UFC stuff. We do have free tools up on the site today. All right, moving along, the next game. Boston, 3.2 implied goal total. Going into Buffalo, 2.4 implied goal total. Oh, buddy, this game is a lot more interesting than we would have ever thought 10 days ago, right? Buffalo has looked good to start the season. Like, you have to give it, any team that starts 3-0 and scores 12 and only allows 4 goals in 3 games, you kind of have to give it to them to start the season, especially where I think even at the best of times, we might have thought at this team in the bottom 5 or 6 this year. Buffalo is 3-0. Boston's 1-1. The one thing I want to mention about Buffalo here, I know people, I don't want to rain on Buffalo's parade here. I think Granato's a good coach. There are young players there that I like, but they've played Montreal, Arizona, and Vancouver. Okay. And knowing what we know now about those 3 teams, they might be 3 lottery teams by the end of the season. It's not exactly a murderer's row for the Sabres. Now, coming up for Buffalo in their next 10 games, they have Boston, New Jersey, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles, Washington, and Edmonton. That's going to be a little bit better of a gauge of how good Buffalo is. But they do have Boston in town tonight. Boston won. I noticed their price has come down from the start of the season. They were over 23K. Now they're down to 21,600 over on DraftKings. The price has come down, but they are on the road. On the flip side, lots of cheap Buffalo options. And we are looking for cheap options on a slate where we have Matthews, Tavares, Bergeron, Pasternak, McDavid, and Draisaitl. So is there anything on the Buffalo side you like? And what do you think about Boston tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo's PDO is like higher than my weight right now. So like they're going to come back crashing on earth, and it starts tonight when Linus Ullmark rumbles out of the tunnel like Vince McMahon. It's a big narrative street for Linus Ullmark. I really like him tonight. Buffalo, like top line of Jeff Skinner, Dylan Cousins, Vinny Hinostroza. Like, what are we doing there? Like, Tage Thompson has looked good. Victor Olofsson's looked good. 8-9% in a 2.4 total. Like hit the road, big boy. Like I just like, and I saw someone mention Kyle. They had to be joking. They said Kyle Okposo season tonight. Like it's not 2001. Like I can't. Like Buffalo or Boston's a good deep team. Like their top 9 is legit. I guess I understand why, Tage Thompson and Olofsson have that ownership because they've been good, but like Boston's a legitimate team. They're not the Canadiens. This is a Boston team. This is a Boston game for me. Patrice Bergeron, 6,500 is too cheap. Yeah, their ownership's like 24% on the road. But Craig Anderson in net, there's not a line that on Buffalo that goes, well, they're going to slow them down tonight. So I really do like Boston won tonight. Like I like full stacking them better than any full stack that I can do for the Leafs. They're an elite line. You don't leave their guys off. You don't leave Marchand off when you're stacking GPP. Boston won. So I really like Boston won tonight. Boston's second line I like as well. Their power play time is a bit wonky. Charlie Coyle's not on the power play. Craig Smith, power play 2, second power play unit, doesn't see too much time. But, Taylor Hall, 5,300, their ownership's in check. Like their ownership 5-6%. I'd rather play them probably 90 out of 100 times that ownership than Tage Thompson and Victor Olofsson at around the same ownership. So I do like the Boston second line and also the Boston third line. You don't have to full stack it, but you could do like a Hall of DeBrusque, 2-man, 6,800 for the two of them to get in your power play stacks for another team. Again, it's a high total on the road. It's a low ownership in a high total game. It's something that you can do to get different. Buffalo, I get it. Like I get the Tage Thompson appeal. I just can't do it at the ownership.
I was wondering what was going on because when I ran my numbers this morning, Buffalo 2 came out as the best value second line in my numbers, my personal numbers. And I was like, how is this possible? Because I knew Vegas 2 and Toronto 2 and all those lines were on the slate. But they did come out as a good value for me. Now, I want to say that is matchup independent. That would be if they were just playing a neutral NHL team. If every team was playing a neutral NHL team, all things being equal, I would have Buffalo 1 as the best second line value on the slate tonight. But all things aren't equal. They're playing probably the best defensive team in hockey right now. That's why, like you said, anywhere is like 8 to 10% on a line. Even if I have them as a good value against that Boston line, it's just brutal. Like that Boston second line has 1.4 expected goals against for 60 minutes. Like that's like Dallas 3 numbers. It's just bonkers. So like, I don't have a ton of interest in Buffalo here tonight. And it's not to say that I don't want to play the Sabres. I just like if Buffalo was at home to basically one of 27 other teams tonight, I would be playing the Sabres. I just think Boston is just one of those matchups that's absolutely brutal. I mean, revenge narrative, Linus Ullmark, anybody?
Oh yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, like Boston's looked great defensively this year. Their numbers look fine. They've looked fine on the ice when I've watched them, even though they've only played a couple games. So yeah, like I'm pretty much out on Buffalo. Like if you want to use like a Jacob Bryson on the blue line, we'll talk about defensemen later, but like, I just don't have any interest in the forwards. I don't know how one of these lines goes out and scores 3 goals up against the Bergeron line tonight. You know what I mean? Like I just can't do it. And then on the Boston side, I want to talk about Boston because we have to talk about their power play. Their power play is atrocious. Okay. And I don't say that lightly. I was looking at some of their numbers from the start of last season, the 2021 shortened season to now. Their goals for are 5.4 per 60 minutes on the power play. Over from 2018 to 2020, it was 10.8. They've literally cut their goal scoring rate on the power play in half over their last 60 games or whatever. It's not a small sample anymore. We're talking 60 games. 5.4 goals per 60 minutes on the power play over the span of an entire season would give them one of the worst power plays in the league. So like while this line, like they were still one of the best lines in scoring at 5-on-5 last year. And maybe Buffalo won't have a very good penalty kill. And, that would be a reason to use Boston tonight. But like if Boston's going to be neck and neck in ownership for the most owned line tonight, and they're probably going to ice what might be a very bad, like we have to consider this could be a bad power play. Like I want people to forget the names for a minute and just look at the numbers. The numbers have declined, and it's not just complete luck, right? Like their expected goals has fallen from like 8.6 to like 6.4. Like their expected goals has fallen by 25% as well. I think there's some red flags here for Boston. And when you have them on a slate where they're going to be relatively the same ownership as a Toronto 1 team with a higher implied goal total at home, like I think I'd rather play Toronto than Boston here tonight. So I'm out on Toronto 1, Toronto or Boston 1. Boston 2 I like. Boston 2 I like a lot. 1 is their price. 2, because Craig Smith and Taylor Hall have just been dynamite since they've been put together last year. I don't care if Charlie Coyle's their center. I don't care if Eric Hall is their center. I don't care who their center is. They've just been dynamite together. So I like Boston 2 as a secondary stack, as a, you know, to try to get away from the super chalk Vegas 2 or something like that. So that's where I am on this game. On the blue line, Robert Hagg stood out to me. He's been blocking some shots, getting, 19, 20 minutes. Probably should be some good shot blocking opportunities here. What do you see on the blue line?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Haig. Charlie McAvoy, if you're doing Boston 1, makes sense, but you just, put me in a bad mood talking about Boston power play. But
well, hey, I just want to cut you off because there's a good point brought up in chat. Is it just Torrey Krug missing? Could it be that simple? Because everything fell apart as soon as he left.
Wait, Jake, earmuffs. Taylor Hall is not a good finisher. He
so much
has
for that
good
race.
shot volume, but come on, the numbers are there. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, Charlie McAvoy, if you're using Boston 1, I know Grizzlock is a fan favorite if you want to use him. I prefer Mike Riley to Grizzlock. On the Boston side, hey, 2,600. If you're really dumpster diving, he's a guy that I do like. But that's really about it. People are going to go to Bill the Butcher at 2,900, but I don't know. I'm not itching to play Sabres tonight.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know about the goalies either. Like Craig Anderson, I know he's had a couple good games. I don't have a lot of confidence in him. Linus Ullmark, I guess if you're game stack or if you're stacking Boston, but even 8,100 on the road.
Yeah, it's a bit pricey. I think, if the Kings confirm our boy Cal Peterson, there's going to be a lot of ownership there. But Ullmark,
Here, let me ask you this instead. Would you rather play Aiden Hill or would you rather play Craig Anderson?
Aiden Hill.
Okay.
1, ownership. 2, Craig Anderson. 3, Craig Anderson. 4, Craig Anderson's age. 5, Buffalo Sabres.
Okay. All right. Alec Martinez is going to be out. We're going to talk about Vegas a little bit later. Thanks for throwing that in chat there, Vots. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season to bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Remember, we just talked about how you could get half off. Well, here's how you get whole off. Is that a term? Whole off? I don't know.
It is.
Anyways. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo. Sign up for an account via the link below. Deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you need immediate access, email support@awesemo.com and we'll get you set up. You can also claim a free $10, which can be used in any Yahoo contest. So if you want to get started, Yahoo's a great place to get started. The Sharks aren't there. Prize pools are lower, but you won't be playing against all the Sharks. You get a free month of Awesemo Plus. All you have to do is be a new user to Yahoo through the link below. Sign up, deposit, and play. 12% management fees was a note that was passed to me on Yahoo. That is nice because it's 15, 16% for a lot of the lower dollar stuff over on DraftKings and FanDuel. And you might not think that 4% makes a difference, but buddy, when you play DFS for years on end, that 4% can make a very big difference between winning and losing in a season. So if you want to get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, check out Yahoo Fantasy if you haven't already. All right, moving along. Los Angeles Kings, 2.4 implied goal total going into Dallas. Dallas, 3.0 implied goal total. If anybody hasn't seen the Dallas lines, just picture that Jimmy Butler meme where he's like crumpling the paper real slow and then just throws it up in the air, because that's exactly what these Dallas Stars did. Luke Glendening is playing with Tyler Seguin, I guess, and then Joe Pavelski's on what's presumably the fourth line. I have no idea what they're doing with these lines. We're going to give you, I'll give you guys the actual lines here. They're doing Radulov, Hintz, Peterson. Seguin is on the top line, as I mentioned, with Luke Glendening and Joel Kiviranta. Pavelski, Faxa, Raffle, and then Jamie Benn, Dennis Gurianov, and Tanner Kiro.
Can't help me.
I don't know, man. You go ahead, whatever.
All right. So my Kings are going to the playoffs, first of all.
Okay, there we go. All right.
I literally don't know what to do with the Stars tonight because, like, okay, yeah, Radek Faska is a good shutdown center, but he's got dinosaurs on his left and right wing. So, like, I want to use the Kopitar line, but you look at their prices and it's just like it's out of bounds for me. Like Kopitar 7,900, way too expensive for me. He's 1,400 more than Patrice Bergeron tonight, and he's on the road. I don't know. Dustin Brown 5,000. That line is over 18,000 a full stack, and it's just like, yeah, ownership is low, so yeah, it's a little contrarian. And Braden Holtby's in that, so maybe I'd have a little bit, but like, it just feels weird plugging them in. So if you're making a bunch of lineups, I definitely have some Kings one. Yeah, LA Kings playoffs plus 280. Come at me. The division's so bad. The division's so bad. We're cashing it. But anyway, I really like this Kings second line tonight. I don't know who they're getting because I subscribe to our boy Gnarly Rads. I'm just so tilted with the Stars I can't even talk. Our boy Quick Party, he does line matching, and it's a great thing to have with your Awesemo membership. Like on top of it, like if you want to subscribe, you can DM me, you can DM Cliffy, you can DM him on Twitter. It shows, all the line matching, but it's frozen for me right now. So I don't know who the line matching in this game is. And
well, what's going to be pretty certain is that I assume the Faxa line is going to go out against Kopitar because Faxa always takes the defensive matchups at home. So you should see Faxa against Kopitar. And then as for the rest, good luck.
Yeah, because okay. Like Tyler Seguin lost a step with Luke Glendening. Like that just cannot be a good defensive line. So anyway, I do like the Kings second line tonight. They forward correlate on power play too. Alex Iafallo, Philip Deneau, Adrian Kempe. They're very cheap. Their ownership is 1%. They're a line that I'm looking to use when I'm trying to get something really expensive in, and I don't mind full stacking them. I know people hate on Philip Deneau in DFS because he doesn't shoot, doesn't do this, but I really like him as a player. It's a huge loss for the Canadians. It's another reason why they're absolutely in the dumpster defensively. At 1%, I really like this line. They're going to avoid Faska. It doesn't really matter, who they get on the Dallas side. So I like the Kings second line, and on the Dallas Star side, I think. If you're going to tell me that, Rupe Hintz and Radulov are going to go out against the bottom six of the Kings, I think that is the line where I'd go. But you see their ownership 20%, I just can't do it. So yeah, I'd move down to Jamie Benn, Dennis Gurianov 2-man because they're cheaper, but you see the ownership there, 8-9%. This is a slate where I want to use Stars, but with all these line matchup or the line changes, and possibly, the coach is going to be like, I don't know why I did this, and just go back to the way it was. I'm kind of out on the Stars tonight. There's just nothing that I'm that super appeals to me. The Kings, yeah, low total, but Kings 2. This game just gave me a headache.
That's why, I like that Kings 2 call because I think we can feel fairly safe that unless Dallas blows the doors off, the Kings are going to leave their lines together, most likely, right? Dallas could completely blow up every line combination 5 minutes into the game. And that's almost certainly what's going to Luke Glendening is on the first line. But if that guy plays 19 minutes tonight, Rick Bowness doesn't have a job tomorrow. You know what I mean?
He shouldn't have a job for putting him on the top line right now.
Right. Yeah. But at the same time, you want to say, oh, well, the best players are going to get all the ice time. Rupe Hintz has played 13:30 a night. He's lost 5 minutes a game from last year. That's the hard part about playing Dallas here tonight, right? Dennis Gurianov, 12.5 minutes. Rupe Hintz, 13.5 minutes. Joe Pavelski, under 16 minutes. they're playing, Sagan and Radulov and Ben and all those guys a ton, but they're getting caved in. So it's not helping them. It's just making them worse. We have no idea what's going to happen with Dallas here tonight. The one stack that I am leaning towards is Ben Gurianov. I know you don't like the ownership on them. I don't like the ownership on them either. But I do like them as a duo. They were pretty good together last year, and they do play the power play together. So even if they get broken up, maybe they still stay on the same power play unit, right?
Avoid Kopitar.
Yeah.
They got to avoid Deneau too, because he's a good defensive center. But if they get, Velarde or, Blake Lizotte, like they should have a positive matchup there.
Yeah. So that's why, that's my point in favor for Ben and Gurianov. Those are the only two I'm really looking towards because for now they're on the same line. We have a history of them playing well together. And they're, if they change up at 5-on-5, they're probably still going to stay at least on the same power play unit. So there's still some correlation. But yeah, that's the only thing I'm really looking at on Dallas is Gurianov and Jamie Benn. And on the Kings side, I'm with you. I never play top lines going into Dallas because they get that Faxa matchup and it's just a terrible matchup. So I'm out on Kings 1. I wouldn't even play him I'm not playing Kings 1 over Boston, Toronto, and Edmonton tonight, even to be contrarian. I just don't see the logical point of doing that. So yeah, out on Kings 1. I do like Kings 2. Like if you want, instead of Boston 2 or Vegas 2 or something like that, if you want to get really, really contrarian, I do like Los Angeles 2 as a little stack here tonight. But it like you said, the ownership's going to be there on Dallas. They're at home with a 3 implied goal total, and they're all super cheap. So unless I think the way to get contrarian with Dallas might be to actually full stack a line because I think a lot of people are going to be in the same boat. They're just going to be like, Hinton Radulov or Ben and Gurianov or whatever. And they're not going to roster Kiro. They're not going to roster Raffle. They're not going to roster those guys. So I think the way to get contrarian with Dallas is just stacking lines.
They're not going to stack Raffle. Why would we stack Raffle? Well, that 3-man is going to come in. If you do full stack them, they're going to be 0.69%. So you might.
Nice. Yeah. So I'm not recommending doing that. Like I said, I'm still just going to 2-man Gurianov and Ben. I've already made my lineup, but I think that is a way to get different here. On the blue line, SL Lindell was up to 24 minutes in their last game. Obviously he's in play. Ryan Suter, I think, power play minutes under 4K is still fine. Anybody else sticking out to you?
Not really. And even on the Kings side, there's not much there. Edler's in no man's land. Sean Walker's 4K. I think, on the Dallas side, Lindell makes sense if you're using Dallas. But other than that, I'm going to look elsewhere for defensemen tonight.
At least Mikey Anderson's not popping for me anymore because he's down to 19 minutes a night, not playing 21 or 22.
Yeah. Mikey Anderson, empty minutes. .gif.
The most useless minutes you'll ever see in fantasy. All right. Ever wondered how you can become part of the Awesemo Hall of Fame, Josh?
Oh, I tagged him last night. I finished first in a double up. I didn't realize I had a tag, and it was 1 a.m. I was like, oh, I just woke someone up. Sorry.
Well, there you go. You can join the Awesemo Hall of Fame. You just have to download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. Placed in the top 3 of a contest with over 5,000 contestants. Tweet the wins to the Awesemo Hoff Twitter account, and you can win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You'll see the screenshots coming up here on the team. You see Ryan here with a $500 single entry. First place so far in the NBA. I noticed the NBA players are off to a real hot start so far this season. I noticed when the NBA screenshots in the morning, they just come at you. It's one after, it fills my feed. It feels like somebody just doing game lines from the night before. And then and then there's the guy we have on the screen right now is somebody that sent in the screenshot. He won $161,000 the opening night on NBA, and he sent in the screenshot for the 5K he won in first place and not the 100K he won in a different contest. And hey man, props to you. You just took down $160,000. I just laughed that it was a screenshot of the 5K and not the 100K. But man, gotta feel good to take down $100,000. Those basketball guys have absolutely been crushing it so far this season. So yeah, if you want to get in the Awesemo Hall of Fame, download the awesemo.com avatar, place top 3 in a contest with over 5,000 contestants. Tweet the wins to the Awesemo Hoff account, and you have a chance to win a 3-month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Note, you can only win 1 month per calendar year. No, you can't just keep winning Awesemo Plus Platinum, even if we help you winning every single night. While everybody is still here, if you could just throw a like and subscribe, especially subscriptions, before we finish up, it really helps grow this channel. Just want to note, we have some shows coming up. We have the Yahoo NFL Sunday Pick Show with Eric and Adam coming up after us. And then after that, the College Football Prize Pick Show with Jordan and Matt. And then we have back-to-back NBA shows, a deeper dive with Lofty and Adam, and then Live Before Lock right after that. So lots of NBA stuff and lots of football stuff coming up. All right, we got 5 minutes to get through this last game, and it's a very interesting one. Edmonton Oilers 3.0 implied goal total going into Vegas. Vegas has a 3.4 implied goal total. The ownership has started to come up through the day as we've done more and more runs. But of all the big lines, Toronto won, Boston won, Edmonton won. We have Edmonton won is coming in at much lower ownership than the rest of them. I always say anytime McDavid is going to be under-owned, he's a must play. I don't care about the matchup. That's kind of how I'm approaching this. How are you approaching this game, Josh?
Yeah, it's the same for me. And it's not like it's the normal Vegas matchup. Stone's out, Pacioretty's out. So they're going to see the Carlson line. And yeah, the Carlson line's a nice line, but they're not a very good shutdown line. Vegas as a whole hasn't been great defensively, and it's not a small sample. Someone shared it in chat Discord this morning. Actually, it was that chart. Their defensive numbers have not been great. If McDavid,
yeah, it was me, man. Come on,
was it you?
Yeah,
it's usually you.
What it was is, since the middle of last season, Vegas has been bottom 10 in the league by expected goals against and mid-pack by goals against at 5-on-5. So they haven't been the elite defensive team they weren't a couple years before that.
Yeah, sorry, would give you credit, but that was hours ago. That's like years.
The burning of Rome, right?
Yeah. McDavid currently 13.4%. That's probably going to come up to around 20, but it's back-to-back on the road, but he's 9,200. He's cheaper than he was yesterday. His line mates are more affordable now that Draisaitl's on the second line with Hyman and Puljujarvi. And those guys aren't slouches. It's still a good line. It's still McDavid. So yeah, I really do, unfortunately, love Connor McDavid tonight, and I think you should play him. So yeah, I like them. If you don't want to do Puljujarvi, you put Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with them, or I don't think you have to play Draisaitl tonight at 8,300. I think you want to go 2C with Nugent-Hopkins at 4,700. You can do that. You want a full stack Edmonton one. I think that's perfectly fine. Hyman at 4,800, top power play at McDavid's wing. That's an elite combo. Where I'm really confused on what to do here is with Vegas, because that Carlson line's coming in around 30%, and they're going to get the McDavid matchup. I'm always off this line anyway, because they're always super cheap and they're always over-owned. But going into the McDavid matchup, I don't care if it's not the best iteration defensively. It's still McDavid. He's still going to control play. At 30%, I think I'm going to be well under the field, or even full fade, Vegas one here. It is a 3.4 total on the road because, Edmonton's terrible defensively, and Mikko Koskinen is going back to back. I think, unfortunately, the line I like in this game is the third line. I don't want to like them, but I do. Evgeny Dadonov, 2,800 power play 2. Nolan Patrick, 2,800 power play 2. My boy Keegan Coleslaw, 2,500. They're almost min price. I'm not saying full stack them and go ham and GPPs, and I have 45% Vegas 3, but they're gonna avoid McDavid. They're gonna get depth of Edmonton, which you can read the lineup builder. There are not any household names down there. It is not good. The thing is, Dadonov is on the back end of his career. Nolan Patrick, the hype train has derailed. Will he come back? I don't know. Keegan Kolesar is an okay player. The reason I like them so much, they get a very good matchup. Edmonton Oilers are bad defensively. They fully correlate on the second power play. It's a 3.4 total at home, and their ownership is 4 or 5%, and they're almost min priced. So I think at the ownership on Vegas one, I'm just going to be out, and that's where I'm going to plant my flag, take a stand, because I just can't get behind a 32% owned line going into McDavid. So I'm going to have some Vegas 3, but I really do like Edmonton 1 and Edmonton power play tonight.
Yeah, for me, it's Edmonton power play. We talked about Vegas's numbers, defensive numbers declining. No Stone Pacioretty, and Tuck were their three best defensive wingers last year, and all of them are going to be out. They saved McDavid last night. McDavid only played 15 to 16 minutes against Arizona. They know they have a big game coming up here tonight. McDavid's going to play like 23 minutes. I think it's a McDavid night again. Do love Edmonton 1. Love that Vegas 3 call. I think that's even a decent spot to game stack. Edmonton 1 and then Vegas 3 is a decent game stacking spot. All right, we got to get out of here. I'm going to ask you for your hat trick, and your goalies real quick. The two goalies I like most tonight are Aiden Hill and Cal Peterson, assuming Peterson starts, and my hat trick pick is Dennis Gurianov.
Ooh, that's spicy. I like Allmark if you're using Boston, and you can consider him in cash. But I prefer to play Cal Peterson tonight. I just worry because it's a later game that they're going to be like, Johnny Quick's going to play, and it's just like, oh crap. But yeah, if Peterson's in, I like it. And my hat trick pick, I'm going to go a little bit off the board here and go Adrian Kempe.
Ooh, Adrian Kempe. I like that off the board pick. All right. That'll do it for us here today. For Mike, our producer, for Josh Harris, this is Michael Clifford saying stick around for the Yahoo NFL Sunday Pick Show, but good luck tonight with your NHL.
Good luck.